Hey, Mean Matt here, and I know I made a video about this 2 years ago, and I actually just watched it. But I was watching something else, and kind of talked about this too in a Whales of Fury episode, but might as well talk about it again, because the video I saw today made me think. And I know that it was mostly about Mark Calloway talking about breaking kayfabe. Now, it's one of those things where it's like, you watch this era of social media, and you have Instagram, and you have TikTok, you have YouTube channels. Basically, you think, okay, well, is kayfabe dead? Because I remember, I just want to say 10 years ago, even more than that, you had the WWE YouTube channel and a bunch of skits and a bunch of different things that you thought, okay, these are wrestlers who come out of character and just be themselves. And is that wrong? I don't think so. There's a fine line between should we keep it or should we not? And, it all started, in my opinion, with the curtain call. And I mean, those days you had basically Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Paul Levesque, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash. Of course, Triple H and Razor Ramon had a match. They came out after in a steel cage where you had a match between Shawn and Diesel. And then, they hugged and whatever. And then that's when Hall and Nash were going to WCW. And at that time, it was frowned upon. And even if that guy didn't sneak his camera in, then maybe, well, it still would have been something to talk about, because I'm sure people had digital cameras, or, well, cameras to take pictures or whatever. So, and there's another part of me, and I think people need to realize, is that these are people. And knowing that not every wrestler is going to get along, there will be some feuds, some shoot feuds, or whatever. You have that with sports or anything like that. It kind of reminds me of, people say wrestling is fake. Well, it's fake in the sense that they're not really that persona. Like, Undertaker is Mark Calloway. He's a human being. He's not a dead man. Barry Dorsal was not Repo Man. Didn't wear a mask all the time. I don't know. And you have, talking about the Undertaker again, always going out of the house dressed in black, trying to be that character, trying not to show the real Mark Calloway. And to a certain extent, I agree with that too. But you look at rock stars, and you look at, and I mentioned this before, Alice Cooper, Vincent Fournier, you have Rob Zombie, Rob Cummings, and they're not that in real life. They're not gonna walk down the street looking like they do when they're on stage. And I think that it used to be like that. But then they ran into drugs and alcohol to keep that persona alive. And it's kind of like keeping that belief alive, keeping the character alive, even if, and for my opinion, that has to fuck with your psyche. I don't know. It might. So when you look at the interviews in talk shows and they're out of character, and there's a show I just watched that was called Out of Character, you know, which is kind of weird because the guy didn't. It was Liv Morgan that was during the interview, and the show is called Out of Character, and it wasn't this guy interviewing Gianna Daddio. It was Liv Morgan, but we all know who Gianna Daddio is because you watch the documentary Live Forever. So we get an in-depth look at what these people are. You know, Sasha Banks Mercedes, or Bailey as Pam, or so on and so forth. And I know that it's frowned upon in some degree. We shouldn't allow personal life, they shouldn't allow there to be. It's really hard for me to put now that I make this video, but basically it's along the lines of you're a wrestler, a rock star, whatever it is, you should be that persona all the time. But nowadays it seems like it's not that. I remember Regis and Kathy Lee, and Regis was a huge wrestling fan, but having Undertaker, Paul Bearer come out in character, or Yokozuna, Jim Cornette, Mr. Fuji come out in character, nowadays it just seems a bit more relaxed. I mean, they're still going to be using their in-ring names, but they're going to be like regular human beings. Like if you watch Roman Reigns going on like Conan or Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, it kind of is like, yeah, he's Roman Reigns, but he's talking like a regular human being who just happens to wrestle and is gonna wrestle at WrestleMania. So I just thought I'd come on here and talk about that because I made a video about that, like I said, and I was watching something today that kind of, I guess, reminded me of something. So if this was a ramble, I'm sorry, but anyways, tonight look for Wheels of Fury, No Surrender predictions. And yeah, well, there it is. Bye.
So you know that them cutting WCW was a long time coming. But I think that there's this myth out there that Jamie Keller and that's why he took pleasure in cutting WCW. I don't think that's the case at all. Because if you look at some of his earlier interviews, like